What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they play a playoff game tomorrow, and we've been saying all week long, it doesn't feel like it's playoff weekend, but it is. And I know everybody wants to talk about every single other thing. Well, we're going to talk playoffs a little bit, and it's exciting to talk playoffs a little bit. We went from, are the Steelers a playoff contender? Are they a Super Bowl contender? The season is over. They sneak in as the wild card team. Baltimore Ravens. Is it a team you want to play? Is it not a team you want to play? Well, the game's tomorrow, and we're going to dive into it all. We're talking all pros, Russell Wilson's chances at saving his career, keys to victory against the Baltimore Ravens, because I'm not ruling this one out, and our game picks for what may but may not be the last time this season. Nick, you got, I think, one more day. No, tomorrow. You leave Vegas today, don't you?
Yeah, I got the red eye tonight, so I'm going to do this and then take a nap because otherwise I'm going to be screwed. Although there is a college football playoff game, so I'll probably take a nap after that for about 60 minutes.
Yeah, that is true. But red eyes aren't bad. You got a layover in between?
Yeah, in Cincinnati.
Nah, yeah, that's a tough one. But
That's
I hear you. I hear you. Did I tell you my my travels backstory? Did I tell you that story? No. All right. This is so flew Southwest. Everybody knows you don't pick seats in Southwest. You just get on the plane and you board. Paid a little bit extra money for the Southwest flight so that I could be like a higher boarding number or whatever. And because Southwest they have like 4 categories, and it's just like you board last, you board medium, second last. You know what I mean? I went medium. So I get on the flight. They say 100 times as people are boarding, there's 75 empty seats on this flight. There's 75 empty seats on this flight. I was like, hell yes, dude. I'm getting a window seat. Somebody's going to sit in the aisle. We're going to be good, dude. So I get in. I sit in the window seat. I put my stuff in the middle. I'm like, this is just a clear indication that you don't sit here. They say it 100 times. This lady gets on the plane. She looks at me. She goes, half the plane's still empty. She goes, is anybody sitting here? I said, oh, no, that's all you. Thought she meant the aisle seat. She calls her friend over, and they sit next to me and the other one, and the lady turns her light on, and she didn't turn it off the whole flight as she read a book. And I'm telling you, man, it was I came home, I was like, I'm still irritated at that woman. Still, like it took too long. It's a blessing and a curse of Southwest, but I hope yours is smoother. I hope you enjoyed your time in Vegas, and I hope you didn't lose too much money. I think that's the big thing. Did you lose too much money?
I lost a perfect amount of money. I didn't win any money, but I think I hit it just right, where I lost money, but I didn't lose everything.
That's a beautiful response. That's a perfect response, actually. That's a good one. All right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football here. Chris Boswell, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt get first team and second team All-Pro honors in 2024. Chris Boswell, no surprise there. First team All-Pro. Cam Hayward, first team All-Pro, and received the most votes and first team votes in his position. I think that was warranted, and it was super cool to see a guy that we've been saying all year, Canton season, get his recognition for this. Fun fact, Cam Hayward has as many pass breakups as Patrick Surtain this season. That is a wild number. And then TJ Watt gets second team All-Pro behind no other than good old Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. I'll start with that one. Chris Boswell earned, Cam Hayward earned. I have a wild time talking about Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And quite frankly, this one is I get it. I understand it. And I'm going to pull up the All-Pros because there's a name that I hope is on this this list, this first team list that would make sense. That would make this all almost okay. That name is obviously Nick Bonito, who I don't know if he is a first team All-Pro. He wasn't a first team All-Pro. So this is what it tells me. All pro people are the same people that vote for defensive player of the year. So you could scratch TJ Watt's name off of defensive player of the year. What will irk me more than anything is Myles Garrett beating TJ Watt in all of these stats, because I think it's hilarious that Myles Garrett is beating TJ Watt in all of these stats and could possibly win defensive player of the year over him because of real life, actual on a piece of paper stats like sacks and tackles for loss and tackles and forced fumbles, stats that actually exist. I think that would be just as ironic and hilarious and show you just what these voters are as it could come in that one. Now, Trey Hendrickson is the other name that made it over him, and there's a big part of me that hopes he wins Defensive Player of the Year if it's not TJ, because I think he deserves it. Nick Benito would have been my second choice, but he is not on this list either, so I don't think he does it. But I think it shows TJ's out on Defensive Player of the Year, snubbed from first team All-Pro, because I'm sorry, still deserved first team All-Pro. It was the exact year, the exact situation that everybody made the argument for last year when it came to Myles Garrett in TJ Watt. That's what this season was. And now Myles Garrett might take it because he leads sacks and tackles for loss and tackles and forced fumbles and the whole nine, which wasn't good enough last year, but this year certainly is. I hope it's Trey Hendrickson. That's my thoughts. I'm not going to go too hard on it because I understand that TJ didn't have the greatest season, but I did think TJ had first team All-Pro seasons. And I think that he was better than Myles Garrett. Wasn't better than Trey Hendrickson. I'll say that one and admit it. But I still think at the end of the day, the best thing is the tragic irony in what is about to happen with Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Oh, how the turntables in this situation for TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. But I get it to a certain extent. Like you mentioned, TJ doesn't have the numbers this year. And every case that has always been made for TJ has to be about the numbers. We can't make up stats to help get TJ into that spot. Him, it's always had to be hard numbers. He hasn't had those hard numbers this year. And I think it also hurt him that you lost the last 4 games of the season against good teams, and TJ was held without a sack in a lot of those games. So the fact that he was kind of neutralized a little bit on those national stages, it doesn't surprise me that he gets second team All-Pro. I think he still deserved that honor, but I don't begrudge the voters at this point, because this is what we asked of them last year. Like, vote the way that is obvious and clear. Last year they didn't. I have a bone to pick with them for last year, but this year I get it. It's exactly what we ask them to do all the time.
I agree. I just think it's hilarious that it took, and maybe that's what it takes. You know, maybe it takes Myles Garrett to make that happen. But I think it's hilarious that it did take Myles Garrett to. Now, that being said, if Trey Hendrickson wins Defensive Player of the Year, I scratch this whole conversation. I could care less. I think it's warranted. That guy deserves it. His team was good at the end. And to be honest with you, that defense was terrible. Trey Hendrickson was not. And he was part of, if you're going to make the argument for Joe Burrow to win MVP, you got to make the argument for Trey Hendrickson to win Defensive Player of the Year, because he did everything he could to keep that defense alive, even though they were a struggle bus all season. But TJ snubbed in my eyes, but I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad that hopefully this stays the same until next year's pass rush rate isn't that good, and you got to make something up. All right, let's talk Russell Wilson real fast before we dive into keys of victory here, because I think that's important. Mike Florio, who talks, says a lot of things sometimes, but talks a lot, said that he believes wholeheartedly that this could not just be the end of Russell Wilson's time in Pittsburgh, but a loss at M&T Bank Stadium against the Baltimore Ravens could be the end of Russell Wilson's career as a starter as a whole. And that it all comes down to this one. And as wild as this may seem, as crazy as this may sound, I think there's something to say, or some part of this that is justified, that he makes some sense here. Now, there is the argument for and the argument against. You could say Russell Wilson's career is over. You could say Pittsburgh's going to give him another contract. You can make whatever argument up you want. I'll say this. I believe that if Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers lose to the Baltimore Ravens, depending on how bad Russell looks, because that'll play a role into this, if he looks good, but the Steelers still lose, I would imagine the Steelers say he's our starting quarterback in 2025. If he looks bad and the Steelers lose, I would imagine the Steelers say, we're going to go in a different direction. There's no need to continue to pound the drum with somebody who hasn't really panned out for us in a year and is 36 years old, going to be 37 by the end of next season. I do think that if Russ looks real bad and that it's multiple games in a row, he will drop pretty significantly from the number 2 behind Sam Darnold ranking that he once was in. Coming into the playoffs, coming into week 18, if we're going to be very honest, Russell Wilson was the second biggest name in the quarterback market. He's going to make $40 million a year. Somebody was going to sign him. Pittsburgh was probably going to be that team. That was the thought process. If he loses to the Ravens and it looks bad, which we're going to dive into picks, I don't think it's going to look that bad, and it looks bad, I think he drops below Justin Fields. I think he drops below guys like Sam Darnold. I think he drops below Daniel Jones. I think he possibly drops below Will Levis if a team is willing to take a chance on Will Levis. I put him in the category of if there's nobody left, you go after Russell Wilson. Kirk Cousins would be on that list, I think, above Russell Wilson in this instance. I think he drops to that second tier of you sign him, and if you really don't have another option, that's the route that you go. I don't think it's the end of him as a starter, simply because think of all the teams that need a quarterback and only the 2 that are coming into the NFL as starters. You need the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the Las Vegas Raiders, let's keep them going here. I don't even know who else is potentially on this list. The New Orleans Saints most likely need a quarterback. I don't know. Maybe I'm running out of names here. But there are at least 6 teams that need a starting quarterback. There are 2 that are going to come into the NFL draft. And I don't know if everybody else is going to get handled well or put into positions. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, 7. 7 teams. And I don't know where everybody's going to land. The Steelers re-sign Justin Fields. That eliminates one of them. Will Levis doesn't have a trade partner, or they keep him to compete with somebody. That eliminates a third or a second. Nobody's willing to pay Kirk Cousins. That eliminates a third. There are all of these circumstances out there that can open the door for Russell Wilson to remain a starting quarterback in the NFL. But I do agree with Florio in the message of, if this is bad, who's going to take a chance on Russell Wilson? I don't think it'd be the Steelers. But if it looks okay, I think it's out there. I will say that Steelers-wise, you're going to have to look damn good to make up for lost ground. And it's crazy to say that because I was the guy spreading the really bad, sad message that there was no shot another quarterback was coming to Pittsburgh in 2025. I think my message has changed to, it's going to take some ground. You're going to have to make up some ground if you're Russell Wilson to remain in Pittsburgh another year, unless you're going to take a very, very team-friendly deal, which is a possibility, but I don't know if I'm banking on that with Russ coming into year 37 of his life and probably the last contract he'll ever get in the NFL. I got a hard time justifying he's just going to take another $1 million deal, make $40 million from the Broncos and feel okay with it. I would imagine he's looking for $20+ million in 2025, probably somewhere more than that. I don't know if he's going to get it. I think, and just to lay it out here one more time before I give you the floor, Russ looks bad. This looks real bad. Russell Wilson's time with the Steelers is over. Time as a starter gets very close to the end, depending on who's out there. But just because there are so many teams with such a big need at quarterback, I'm not going to sit here and say it's over. I think that part's a little bit of an overreaction. The rest of it, maybe not. Your thoughts on Florio saying this is the end if they don't pull this one off?
If this was 10 years ago, I'd probably agree with Mike Florio, because 10 years ago, quarterback play around the NFL was much better than it is right now. Right now, there is a severe lack of quarterback play in the NFL. You have your stars, and then there's not a lot of guys in the middle. I think you have a lot of guys that are towards the bottom half. I mean, how many players or how many quarterbacks started for the Tennessee Titans this year? How many guys did the Jaguars go through after Trevor Lawrence went down? How many quarterbacks have played for the Las Vegas Raiders in the last 3 years alone?
Yes.
There has been a lot of bad quarterback play, which is why you see quarterbacks that are at this point of their careers probably not capable of being that guy anymore. A Joe Flacco continue to get opportunities. So if Russ struggles and Russ looks bad and it continues what we've seen the last 4 weeks, I would imagine the Steelers are going to look at that and say, all right, well, we can't realistically bring this back. But I do think that because of what you mentioned there, I'm in total agreement, because the NFL is lacking quarterbacks and you're not getting that big boost from college this year or even next year. I mean, look at next year's draft. Is
Drew Aller hurt himself
out
last night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Drew Aller hurt himself. Is Carson Beck really going to look that much better after a year in Miami? I don't know. So this year's draft and next year's draft right now aren't looking great. I think because of that, this is not a last dance per se for Russell Wilson. But I do agree that it is his last dance in Pittsburgh if he goes out and fumbles the bag the same way that he has the next 4 years, or the last 4 games, I should say.
I agree. I 100% agree. So let's play a fun game here because, let's bring some livelihood back to this episode. What's the stat line? What's the benchmark? What's the baseline of Russell Wilson does enough to let's break it into categories here. Let's start with this one. Does enough to stay. Here comes the cat, dude. I'm telling you, he's going to make an appearance. I know for a fact. He's jumped into every meeting I've had today. He's coming and he's already looking. What is the baseline, the stat of Russell Wilson in this football game will completely eliminate wins or losses? Wins or losses are gone. Who cares about that? They could win by 30. Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris can combine for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. We don't know. They could lose by 30. Russell Wilson throws 4 touchdowns. I bet you that he comes back. What is the baseline stat of Russell Wilson to remain with the Pittsburgh Steelers? One and done. This is it. You got one game to do it. What would it be?
The big one is 0 interceptions. I don't care how many touchdowns he throws for. He needs to have 0 turnovers. And I think if you're looking at yards wise, it's hard to quantify it because he could put up 150 yards in the fourth quarter when they're already getting blown out in garbage time. And then people will say, well, you said if you got 250 yards, then he'd be coming back. It's like not whenever he had 50 going into the fourth quarter, like we saw against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he needs to have a rhythm and flow through at least 3 of the 4 quarters, because I'm not going to say he needs to do it all 4. The Steelers offense has never been good in the first quarter, at least all of this season. So I'm not going to say that I expect it or I need it to look good tomorrow, because it hasn't. I'm not going to try to put that expectation out there. So if he is able to get in the rhythm, get in a flow throughout at least 3 of those quarters on Saturday, throws for upwards of 220. Again, we'll have to see what the weather is like, and 0 turnovers. That's when I think it opens the door and you have the conversation.
Okay. I like that. I agree with you. 0 turnovers is the baseline. That's number 1. I'm going to add a little bit to that. I'm going to add, it's got to be a game within 7 points. Outcome has to be within 7 points in a loss. And 2, you have to contribute, you as in Russell Wilson has to contribute to more than 20 points in this ballgame. Now, you can contribute in different ways. You don't have to score 3 touchdowns, but your team has to score 3 touchdowns, and it can't be Chris Boswell kicking 6 field goals. It's got to be the offense scores 20 points in this ball game to show we could score 20 points in a football game. We're capable of doing that because it's been a long time since anybody in Pittsburgh scored 20 points. I think I agree with that. 0 turnovers. 1 turnover, it's over. 1 turnover, it's done. You're done. Scratch next season, it's over. I'm saying 20 points for the offense, minimum. It's got to be a 7-point outcome. Russell Wilson can't turn the ball over. If that happens, I think I feel pretty good about him coming back. Now, baseline, which is going to be much lower. Baseline, Russell Wilson's career as a starter continues, but it's not in Pittsburgh.
Ooh, I mean, again,
because he's got to look bad, but he's not going to look like there's a difference between Russ looks bad, Russ looks real bad.
Yeah, I think if we see the version that we saw of him the first 3 quarters in Cincinnati, then he is going to go to the bottom of that pile. That it's going to be like, hey, everybody else found their guy. Russ, I guess you can sit there. Yes. I guess you could sit there. So if we see,
you could sit next to me in the middle seat in Southwest. That's what
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think anything under what I expect, I still think he's going to get a chance simply because of what we talked about earlier. I don't think the quarterback play league wide is good enough that somebody's going to look at Russell Wilson and say, you know what? I'd rather have, Aiden O'Connell. You know what? I'd rather have
some people have. Tom Brady likes Aiden O'Connell. I was told Tom Brady's a fan of Aiden O'Connell.
I wonder why.
Now,
may or may not have some stake in that.
I agree with that. I just say, I don't know. Well, okay, let's finish it off with the other way around before we dive into keys to victory here. That $40 million contract still on the table, I would imagine. What's the stat line for Russell Wilson to make $40 million in 2025?
300 plus, 3 touchdowns, no pick. Like, even if he has a good game, I'm still going to be skeptical. Like, you can come out and have one good game, but what we saw is very poor performances against good teams to close out the season. And I understand there are other factors. The offensive line hasn't been great. The run game hasn't been helping very much. The defense struggled for 3 of those weeks before finding their footing against Cincinnati, but he's going to need to blow me away for me to think that he deserves that big of a contract to come back and play for the Steelers.
I'm just laughing at a comment that just came in. I'll add one piece to that because I agree. 353 touchdowns, blown away. This is it. A victory. And I'm talking a victory. I walk into that locker room Saturday night, midnight, and it is a party going on in the Pittsburgh Steelers closet of an away locker room at M&T Bank Stadium. That is what needs to happen. A victory. That is what needs to take place to make $40 million a year. And I think it's still on the table for Russell Wilson. I'm not going to act like it isn't. So with that said, let's dive into this. Keys to victory. I got 2 of them. This guy, man, I wish you guys could see this. He's been hanging out here the whole episode. He just rolled himself into the office mat that I have under my chair, freaked out about it, took off, hit the wall on his way out. This guy. Shout out our boy Mikey G here. I laughed so hard when this came in. So hard. Keys to victory. Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. I got 2 of them for you. We'll start on the defensive side of the football. And it's very clear. I talked to more than one player this week in the locker room. I just asked, hey, what do you guys got to do? Like, what's got to be the key here? Like, how do you beat the Ravens? And it was simple. Both sides of the football said the same thing. We got to have more turnovers than we give up. And that's what this comes down to, is the Steelers might turn the football over. I get that. But the defense has to turn the football over. The Steelers defense needs to create turnovers. They need to create splash. And I'm not talking third quarter splash. Minka Fitzpatrick comes up with an interception near the end zone and they do absolutely nothing with it except for throw a pick 6 3 plays later. I'm talking TJ Watt strip sack early to get this thing going. I'm talking Alex Highsmith gets to the quarterback and rips the football away. I'm talking Dante Jackson comes up with an interception and Beanie Bishop comes up with an interception and somebody takes it to the house. I'm talking real, meaningful, impactful turnovers that are early enough in a game to make this an advantage for your side instead of late enough in a game to keep your hopes alive in a crucial moment. You need to have impactful, make this your game to control turnovers to walk away victories or victorious against the Baltimore Ravens. You cannot let that offense build any momentum. The Steelers defense must keep them at a place where it just feels like the Ravens are trying as hard as possible to get anything going, and they just can't. And in the moments where they start to, something big happens. You have to feel not as if Russell Wilson is winning this football game and the Steelers offense is winning this football game, but rather that the Steelers defense has won and is taking over this football game. That is key to victory 1 for me. Key to victory 2, and I'm sorry if I take these. I didn't ask yours before the show. I jumped on very late. I should have. Key to victory 2 for me is Russell Wilson's got to do something he hasn't done in like 3 years, and that is utilize the middle of the field, because George Pickens is going to be double teamed, and I'm going to tell you how he utilizes that. I'm not talking Pat Freiermuth. George Pickens is going to be double teamed. That's a thing that happens all the time. You're probably not going to utilize Pat Freiermuth as much as you need to. that's just a way of life for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren could combine for 150, 200 yards. It almost doesn't matter at this point. I don't know why, but it seems as if you run the ball and you average 5 yards a carry. It just doesn't matter. The Steelers aren't doing enough. They're not getting to where they need to go. The way that the Steelers will win this game to control it on offense is to use guys like Calvin Austin. I almost said Calvin Anderson. Calvin Austin. As crazy as this one sounds, man. Ben Skoranek. Shout out. And maybe even my boy Van Jefferson in the middle of the field. Calvin Austin's the big one. There have been 2, maybe 3 times this season where Calvin Austin has made a lot of noise in the middle of the season or in the middle of the field. And you have to be able to utilize that. You have to be able to take advantage of that. That is going to be an area where the Ravens will ignore, because that is what playoff football is. Playoff football is simple. It is much more detailed. It is much more matchup oriented than any other game of the week. In any other game, you are looking at this going, okay, Monday I'm showing up, I'm recovering. Tuesday, we're diving into film. Wednesday, we're going to do practice. Thursday, practice. Friday, practice. Saturday, a walkthrough. We're finishing it up. We're focused on us. In the playoffs, we're focused on them. How do we make them go to plan B? How do we make them go to plan C? And the Ravens are going to make sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers go to plan B and plan C. And that it means they're shutting down George Pickens, and they're going to do what they can to take away the run game. And that leaves Calvin Anderson. I said it. Damn it, I said it. Calvin Austin and whoever else they want to put in the middle of the field as their plan B and plan C. And that's how you're going to win this one. Is you got to take advantage of the parts of the field and the areas that the Steelers are going to have available, because the Ravens are going to do everything in their power to shut down their first options. I don't know if they could, but that is certainly a key to victory. Those are mine. What's yours?
Yeah, fortunately you didn't take mine, but mine is on the back end because we saw them fix this issue a lot last week. I think there was one big issue last week when it came to the Steelers defense, and that was that they continuously just left Corey Trice on an island with Jamar Chase. Now, fortunately, there's not a wide receiver on the Baltimore Ravens that is going to give you half of the troubles that Jamar Chase would give a Corey Trice in that situation. But what they need to do is more of what they did for most of the game last week. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Mark Andrews is a very good tight end. He's extremely good when nobody's covering him, like the last time the Steelers played the Baltimore Ravens. You cannot allow easy completions. You cannot allow easy touchdowns. You cannot allow easy first downs on 3rd and long. You have to be able to be in your position. I don't want to see Patrick Queen with his back to the line of scrimmage whenever the ball is being snapped because he's trying to get somebody in the right spot. I want them to be able to communicate, be in their spots, and be ready for the play whenever the play is coming, because they didn't do that nearly enough the last time they played the Baltimore Ravens, and it screwed them over. They were still in the game until those 2 turnovers happened, but it screwed them over nonetheless. That's the reason the Ravens had so much success, because they couldn't get their run fits because they were in the wrong spot. They couldn't get their coverages right because they were in the wrong spot, or they were late to their spots. They need to be good with their communications from the first snap of the ball. If they do that, I think they're going to have a chance, because I have a lot of faith in this defense if they're in the right positions to be able to make the plays necessary.
I agree. There is one side of the football that right now I could say, if they're going to show up for this game, it's going to be the Steelers defense. If they're going to do something, if they're going to make an impact, if they're going to do everything in their power to pull this one off, it's going to be the Steelers defense. And they have had moments, many moments in this season where you looked at it and went, Steelers defense is damn good. Damn good. Really, really, really good. They haven't been the last 4 weeks, but to be honest, against Cincinnati, they weren't terrible. They played pretty well. I mean, you hold the Cincinnati Bengals to 19 points for what they were doing. That's very impressive. It's very impressive. I agree with you. I think communication is going to be huge. Not having guys play hero ball, I'll add to that, is also going to be huge. And if you could do that, you'll stay on schedule and you will keep them, the Ravens, behind the sticks and moving in a direction where it is 3rd and long and you're faced with difficult decision. And just to piggyback off yours, that's when you come up with those plays. That's when you come up with those big turnovers. And I think that that opens the door. I agree with you. I like those. With that said, it's time. It's wild card time here. To make our selections for Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, first round of the playoffs, a game, and I'll be very honest with you, Nick. I have not made a decision on who I'm picking. I'm not. I have not. Because I've thought about it all day and my mind's torn. Because all week long, we're talking as if this game isn't even happening. It's wild to me how little we have focused on the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers play a playoff game to begin their dance, to begin their journey. We're looking at it essentially. I got people, and it's not me. It's the city of Pittsburgh. It's everybody. It's a ton of the fan base. I have people calling, texting out. I'm having conversations with people where it's just, yeah, man, what are they going to do in the offseason? Yeah, what are they going to do about Russ after the year? What is Justin coming back? They play a football game in 28 hours. Like they have a shot to keep this thing going and to stay alive. And I had to turn my attention to it to just say, what's going to happen? And all day I'm trying to make the decision. And I think usually I give myself a full week. I usually have a decision by like Thursday. What's going on? I think I gave myself 5 hours this time around, and I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. So with that said, I want to hear the spread. I want to hear the over under, and I'll make my call there.
Yeah, if you head on over to our friends at DraftKings, the Pittsburgh Steelers heavy, and I think that is a understatement of the year, heavy underdogs in this one. 8.5 points in favor of the Baltimore Ravens, says DraftKings Sportsbook. The over under sits at 43.5. So with that said, Noah, what are you thinking?
That's a tough one. I'll say this to start the conversation, to start the flow, to where this journey ends with me making a pick. Okay, I'll start it with this. There is no chance, and you can put this on Freezing Cold Takes if it happens, but I'm pretty positive it's not gonna. There is no chance the Pittsburgh Steelers lose this football game by 8.5 points. There's no chance. This is not the Kansas City Chiefs. This is not a bad Steelers team. This is not you lose 5 games, the Cleveland Browns come to town, they're clearly out. You stink at this point. This is not any of that. This is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that just came a 2-minute drive away from losing from beating the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has a defense that can keep an offense, a good offense, under 20 points. So maybe the 43.5 is the right number, but the 8.5 certainly is not. And I understand what Vegas is saying. I get it. I 100% understand what the sports book is saying in saying that the Ravens are heavy favorites over the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't feel the same way. I'm going to do it, Nick. I'm going to do it. There's something in my gut right now, and I've had some really strong gut feelings in the past like 2-3 weeks of like, you're doing the right thing, you're making the wrong call, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm going to do it. I'm going Baltimore Ravens 21. Pittsburgh Steelers 24 in this one at M&T Bank Stadium. I think Justin Tucker can't pull it off for Baltimore, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers do just enough to put this one away. Now, you could get to 24 a number of ways in the NFL, and I think that they're going to do it. I wasn't predicting that. I wasn't feeling good about that one. To be honest, I think all week long I was on the same boat as everybody else. This season's over. You move on to the next one. But there's something in the gut right now as I was talking, saying, I don't know, man. I don't know. Lamar wants to win a Super Bowl. The Steelers just want to win a damn playoff game. And I think right now, Lamar's not playing in the Super Bowl. Lamar's just playing a playoff game. And the Steelers, they're focused on that playoff game. They want that playoff game. I'm going to go Steelers 24, Ravens 21. And I think that might be the ballsiest pick I've made all season.
Yeah. I mean, at the start of this week, I had very little hope that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to be able to pull this off. But as the week goes on, and as you hear from the guys, and as you think a little bit more about, what went wrong the last time the Steelers took on the Baltimore Ravens? Well, they lost Joey Porter. They didn't have Deshaun Elliott. Those are 2 massive losses. They also didn't have George Pickens on the offensive side of the ball. And even if he doesn't do anything, even if he looks like he did against Cincinnati, he's going to get a lot of attention, and it should open up holes for other players, as you mentioned earlier on the show. if the Steelers are going to be in this game, they need to have the lead at some point in the third quarter. If they have the lead at some point in the third quarter, John Harbaugh is not going to know what to do because he's going to stop going to Derrick Henry. He's done it in the past. He stops going to the bread and butter whenever he's trailing the Pittsburgh Steelers. It gets him all out of character. So if the Steelers can keep it close, because like I said, I don't expect the offense to get off to a hot start. But if the defense can start off hot and they can keep it close in the first, take the lead early in the third quarter, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have a shot. And we have a friend of the show that has been saying all week 24-20 in favor of the black and gold. Well, friend of the show, Mark Caboli, I'm tailing you on that one. 24-20 in favor of the Steelers.
I did not expect, shout out Mark Caboli, I did not expect us to come into this episode today. I think if you gave me odds, they'd be very low that we came into this episode today sweeping the Ravens on this, going both Steelers. You've picked against the Steelers in a number of times. I've even picked against the Steelers this season. I think I'm a little bit stunned right now that we have both picked the Pittsburgh. And after I did it, I really didn't expect. I thought you were going to call me just like, dude, what are you even doing? You're talking out your ass right now. This is not going to happen. But I love it. I love it. 24-20. Where'd you see Caboli say that?
He tweeted that, I think, on Tuesday, and I just filed it away and thought about it for 3 days. And now, kept it for this moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. 24-20, Nick. 24-21, Noah. I feel that's pretty damn good. We're tied, I'm pretty sure.
I think I'm up a half a game if you include the full slates that we picked.
All right, so if this one, we're going to have to go into next week. They're going to have to win so that we could go into next week. And at that point, there's no chance. I would give it no chance you picked the Steelers over Kansas City. So I would just have to on a flyer just to say, I'd have to let you go first. Just so I could pick the opposite of you and see who comes out on top. That's, damn, you got me at the end there. You got me I had you in the first half. Got me in the end. I love it. All right. With that said, that's our picks for Wild Card Weekend, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. We're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day, answering all of your questions. But first, we're going to take a quick break, hear from our boys over at DraftKings. Hey, football fans, there's only a few short weeks left in the season, and we've got some exciting wildcard games to look forward to. Get in on the action right now with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. They're offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Don't let this slip away. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using our code ALLSTEELERS. The crown is yours. Stay in the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. Love the thrill of betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen, making watching the game that much more exciting. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSTEELERS and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSTEELERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings. All right, we're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day. We're going to answer all your questions, so make sure that you're tossing them in the chat. We'll get to all of them before we head out of here. Nick, what do we got?
Yeah, let's kick things off with Ricky, who says, I was in the same boat as Noah until I walked into Walmart last night and Renegade was playing over the speakers. Then I got these hit feeling.
That's what I'm saying there, Rick. That's what I'm saying. That's all it takes. It's all it takes is just that. Oh, baby. What was that? Was that a sign? Was that a sign from the universe? I'm a guy who believes in signs from the universe. I am a big trust your intuition guy. And I'll tell you this, on Sunday morning, if I'm way off, well, that happens to the best of us. Sometimes you read them wrong, but Renegade at Walmart. I mean, I've walked into many Walmarts, never once heard Renegade, especially the week of the playoffs. I love it, Rick. I love it.
Let's go over to Handycart, who says, I need Mike Tomlin to go. He's wasting TJ's career at this point.
All right. So I'm not gonna fight this one. I get it. I understand it. I was asked while in Vegas many times, hey, what's the fan base feeling? What are the people feeling about Mike Tomlin? And truth be told, most of them, from what I have heard from the listening to you guys and everybody else running into people, and it just doesn't feel like Tomlin's a guy many people have faith in right now or have had faith in for a little while. So I can't argue that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be the guy that says the Steelers are blessed to have Mike Tomlin. I'm not going to be that guy anymore. What I am going to say is I don't know if a new coach doesn't waste TJ Watt's career. And I understand the argument to say, well, Mike will get us a chance every year. Maybe he won't take advantage of it, but he'll get us a chance every year. And that's how the Steelers are thinking. So I just don't think that a new coach comes with a guarantee that you're going to do anything other than suck. And if that's the case, you're really wasting TJ Watt's career.
Let's go over to Chris, who says, would the Steelers trade for the number 1 pick and draft Cam Ward?
I'll answer this with 2 parts. Part 1, no, they would not. They don't have the draft capital to move all the way to 1. They just wouldn't be able to get there. They'd have to trade at least multiple first-round picks, probably a player. I don't know if that player could be George Pickens, especially with Tennessee. They have wide receivers. Why would they need another one? I just don't know if you get there with the draft capital and the assets that the Steelers have. 2, I've been told, and I don't, I have my opinions, but I trust the words of scouts that I talk to. And there are a lot of people in the NFL, a lot, that are past that first, second, third pick in the draft saying Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are not first-round picks in a good draft. They're not even close, actually. Shedeur Sanders, I've been told, 3rd-round grade. Cam Ward behind him. That's concerning. So I like Cam Ward, but I don't think that he's very high on a lot of teams' draft boards, and I would imagine the Steelers are in that same boat.
Let's go over to Thomas, who says, being a Steeler fan means you are a hopeful optimist. Let's go black and gold. Would you trade GP and 2 first-rounders for Justin Jefferson?
Oof, no, only because, I love this, and I think this is the reason why I would say no. It's not because it's a bad trade. It's because who's going to throw him the football? Kyle Allen? You're going to go get Mason Rudolph back or somebody? If the quarterback was there and it wasn't Russell Wilson, it would make so much sense. Yeah, whatever. Go spend a boatload of money. Go get a wide receiver. Go get the wide receiver. Make your offense elite. I get it. But there, you don't have a quarterback. And I think that's why I would say no, is because you just don't have anybody throw him the football. If it's Justin Fields, maybe you do have somebody to throw him the football. I still don't know if I'm going GP and 2 first-round picks. I think you could go GP and a first-round pick and make it happen for Justin Jefferson. I also don't think that the Minnesota Vikings in their wildest dreams would trade Justin Jefferson because they won 14 games and he's the 2nd leading receiver in the NFL. I think he still is the best receiver in the NFL. I don't think it's possible. I don't think I would, only because of the quarterback situation.
Let's jump down to Vibin with the Dogs. Says, if Russ looks bad, but the Steelers still win, do you still bring Russ back?
I think at that point, in the words of Mike Tomlin, we'll see. Wait and see. What does he say? Wait, I don't remember.
He says a lot of things. I don't know which one you're referencing right now.
Just the one that's very straight. He says it all the time, and it'll come to me. He'll probably say it in a press conference in the next 27, 28 hours, something like that, and just be like, oh, there it is. We'll see. I think it moves to the divisional round. At that point, if Russ looks bad and the Steelers win, you go to the next game. How does it look? How does he look? How do they do? It's almost as if it's just another opportunity to see what he could pull off, but it doesn't. I don't think it impacts him coming back or not coming back. It's more so just here's another opportunity.
Let's go over to Gage, who says, do you think we have a better chance of seeing Fields against Baltimore, considering Arthur Smith is not holding back and, quote, burning all the boats.
I saw a very bad article that talked about how burning all the boats meant Justin Fields was going to play. And I think Justin gets a handful of snaps in this game. I do. I don't think it's more than that. I just expect a handful of, hey, we're going to use Justin a little bit. The only way that I see more Justin is if the Steelers are down 14-0 at the end of the first. Like, it's real bad, real fast. That's the only way that I see Justin getting a lot of snaps. Other than that, I would imagine it's 4 or 5 snaps in this game, and there's really not much that's going to go into it.
Let's skip down to Nathan, who says, missing the live today due to working, so I'll be looking forward to the answer later. What about drafting Caleb Johnson out of Iowa in the draft?
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. I hope he falls to the 3rd round so the Steelers could get him in the end of the 3rd. I think that would be phenomenal. Caleb Johnson's a stud, man. Stud. He's fun to watch, and he's a bully. Like, that's my favorite part about Caleb Johnson is he's a bully. But I will say this, and I love Caleb. Like, I would take Caleb Johnson over most running backs in this draft. I think he's maybe 4th on my list. Nick Singleton should declare for the draft right now. Right now. Because watching that game last night, that's all I thought was like, who cares about when you're going to be a 2nd-round pick, dude. Go to the NFL. And that's the guy I would love the Steelers. I think he's phenomenal. He is explosive, can catch the football, blocks well, hits you in the mouth. I love Nick Singleton. But Caleb Johnson is, I would say, probably 4 on my list right now. Behind Ashton Genty, who's the dude out of UNC? I don't remember.
I can't remember. I know Ollie Gordon out of OK State is going to be a name later in the draft as well.
Yeah, he's a little bit later. And Henderson out of Ohio State. And then if you add Singleton in there, I think I'd add him in the list right above Caleb Johnson. But to be honest with you, I think Henderson and Johnson are intertwined. You could switch them up.
All right, let's go down to Chris again. Appreciate you, Chris. Says, think the Steelers go all in to get Tyreek Hill?
I don't. I think there's too many complications with Tyreek Hill. You're going to have to pay him again. He's over 30 years old. Do you want to pay him again? I don't think so. You're going to have to give up a boatload of draft capital to go get him. Plus, you're going to have to pay him. That makes sense when you're 26. It makes much less sense when I think he's 31 right now. It's cause for concern. Plus, if the Steelers are going to get rid of GP this offseason, which people tend to think is going to happen, it's because of the issues. You're not going to bring in Tyreek Hill, who is Mr. Issues. I just don't think that's going to work. And what's going to happen when he gets to Pittsburgh and he realizes like he doesn't have a quarterback and there's nobody throwing the football? I don't think they would, because I think they understand the consequences of it and that it wouldn't work out well.
Let's go over to Sam, who says, Noah, you were confident with the spirits of the team before the Bengals game. Did the loss affect their spirits to the better? Or is there a fatalistic sense that the season is over?
No, there's no sense the season is over. I get the sense, and bear with me on this because I did spend 2 days in Vegas, so I missed 2 days of practice. I was only there 1 day this week. But the sense I got is that it really is like a wipe the slate clean. Like it really does feel like a team that just entered a brand new season. That's what it feels like. Like everybody is, there's almost no pressure, which I think helps. Like you go to years past, you go to last season, and you're talking like this is a team with a lot of pressure on them right now. All eyes. Can they pull this off? Right now, it feels like a team that everybody's already given up on, which I think has removed all the pressure. That's the sense I'm getting, is these guys are ready to go. They're practicing well. They feel calm, and it's almost a calm as if like they got nothing to lose, just everything to win. And I like that, to be honest. I think that works in their favor.
Let's jump down to PH34 Poker, who says, when will the Steelers have a good offensive line?
Maybe next year. They have the pieces of their offensive line. Like that's the biggest component in this conversation, is they have all the pieces. They have a center. They have a guard. They have 2 tackles. They just need everybody to work out. Is that guaranteed? No, definitely not. But they've invested, and that was what everybody was screaming at them to do. Invest in your offensive line. Invest in your offensive line. Invest in your offensive line. They did. And if James Daniels doesn't get hurt and Troy Fontanu doesn't get hurt, I bet you that offensive line is pretty damn good right now. So they have the pieces. Mason McCormick's got to develop, and Broderick's got to take a step forward, which he has it late in the season, and you got to hope Troy Fautanu is good. If that all happens, the Steelers' offensive line is looking pretty good.
Let's jump over to Dalton, who says, do you see a scenario where they keep James Daniels and instead trade Isaac Seumalo?
I think that's cause for concern because you'd be moving either Mason or James Daniels, and I think that they both play right guard better than they play left guard. I don't personally. I think James Daniels is going to get paid. He's dealing with a torn Achilles, so it comes with questions. Isaac is a veteran who's got 1 year left on his deal. You might as well ride it out. It's not like Isaac's playing bad. So I would say no. I don't believe that's going to happen. Could they shock us and do it? Certainly. But I wouldn't guess that that's going to happen.
Let's jump to Peter, who says, if Russ ends up staying, do you think the Steelers bring in competition for him over the summer?
No, I don't. As crazy as it sounds, like everybody's got Anthony Richardson's getting competition, Russ ain't. If they bring Russ back, he's the starter. He's the guy in 2025. I don't think there's any questions to it. They might bring in like another Justin Fields, like, hey, here's a guy that is good as a backup, but we already know he's going to be a backup. We're just going to say it's a quarterback competition because that's what we do here. But I don't think it'd be real competition, no.
Let's go over to Tyler, who wants to know, any chance the Steelers' first play on Saturday evening is a play action pass?
What are the odds on that? Because that's got to be the reason you're asking. What are the odds? I would, if I had to guess, you want to know? I mean, I think it's a very obvious guess. My guess, first play of the Steelers' offensive drive is a run because it's first down, and they tend to do those things. But it would make a lot of sense if it's play action. I mean, could you imagine play action deep to George, set it up? That'd be beautiful. Will it happen? Probably not.
Let's go over to Carlton, who says, big players make big plays in big ball games. Who's going to come up big on Saturday night?
My guess is TJ Watt. It remains TJ Watt. TJ just seems like a guy that TJ is so fed up with losing playoff games, man. He's a winner. That TJ Watt is a guy that should have rings, that should have multiple defensive player of the years. Like, he's a winner, and he just doesn't play on a winning team. And I would guess TJ Watt's the guy. I mean, even if you go back even to past playoff performances, TJ does big things. The Steelers just lose.
Let's go over to Logan K, who says, which wide receiver on the roster right now do you predict has the longest Steelers career?
Wide receiver. That's such a tough question. Can I give you a really honest answer?
Yes.
And this one might be the most logical too. Can you guess who I'm going to say?
I think I have an idea of who you're going to say.
Ben Skoranek.
Okay, never mind. I had no idea that was coming.
If I had to guess, it's Ben Skoranek. Ben Skoranek could spend 10 years in Pittsburgh. It wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, why would you not? He's definitely coming back next season. They are crazy to let Ben Skoranek go in the offseason. Crazy. The dude contributes a little bit on offense, and he's a phenomenal special teamer. You keep Ben Skoranek because somebody else is going to go get him. You keep Ben Skoranek.
He's not Matthew Slater, but let's not forget how much Mike Tomlin adores Matthew Slater and that top tier special teamer. A guy like Miles Killebrew has stuck around because he is really good at special teams. I could see Ben Skoranek getting into that group.
Why would you not? And that's the thing is special teams aren't expensive. You just keep the good ones, and then you do things like have years like this where your special teams unit is ridiculous. Like, yeah, Ben Skoranek's my answer. Easy answer, I think.
Let's jump down to Cody Silva, who wants to know, longtime listener of the show, just wondering.
Cody, we know. Shout out Cody, bro. Friend of the show. Okay. Friend of the show.
He says, just wondering if Nick Martin is still your draft evaluation guy. Guest appearance in the offseason coming?
Yeah. So our boy Nick, who was with us forever, he is doing, oh man, who's he with? He's with, I think at one point it was Pro Football Network. He might still be with Pro Football Network, but he got a bigger, better gig, another blessing. It was pretty awesome to see. So he's doing that, but 100%, him, Derek Bell, both expected to make appearances on this show during the the draft evaluation process 100%. And if I could convince them, maybe I'll get them both on here for a little All Steelers Talk NFL draft work our NFL draft talk. I forget what we called it back in the day, but that would be for sure. But yeah, and Nick, I expect to come, and Derek as well.
Let's go to Hollywood 931, who says, is there's any way the Steelers win this game and still re-sign Justin instead of Russell Wilson?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. They win this game. Russ looks bad. They go to Kansas City. Russ still looks bad. I mean, like, that's what it's going to take. As long as Russ doesn't look good, the Steelers have a shot to re-sign Justin Fields in the offseason. I don't think it's likely, but the window's definitely, the door is open. The door is definitely open after what we've seen the last 4 weeks.
Let's skip down to Miguel, who says, trade Mike Tomlin to the Chicago Bears for a first, DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, and go after Chris Olave.
I mean, wow. I just don't. I would. It's a great trade. It's a great trade. Works really well in the Steelers' favor. That's fantastic. I just don't think that Chicago would be like, what do you want? You want everything? I don't think we could give you everything. That being said, you make a good case here only because the Pittsburgh Steelers have fleeced the Bears in the past. And, they might have got rid of their head coach, but they didn't get rid of their GM. And Ryan Poles might be like, yeah, you know what, Omar, give me a call. Let's see if we can work something out. So I would say it not likely, almost pretty much impossible, but I like the idea.
Let's go over to Alexander, who says, wait, is Pat Surtain going to win Defensive Player of the Year over TJ Watt?
There's probably a chance that he does. If I had to list my rankings, it'd be Myles Garrett as the favorite, Pat Surtain as the number 2, Trey Hendrickson is the number 3. The way I see it, it should be Trey Hendrickson, Pat Surtain, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, I guess, as 1, 2, 3, 4. But yeah, Pat Surtain probably does win it. Myles Garrett probably wins it. Pat Surtain's my second choice.
Let's go over to Angelo, who says, fellas, how can we capitalize on Pat Freiermuth from last game? Can the offense depend on him consistently?
I hope so. I don't think it comes down to Pat. I don't. I think it's we're talking Pat Freiermuth?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't think it comes down to Pat. I think it comes down to, does Russ get him the ball? Is the offense designed to get Pat the ball? Pat does great things with the football in his hand almost all the time. So it's not, I don't think it's Pat. I think it's the offense getting Pat the ball. When he does, it works. It's just a matter of, do they?
Let's jump down to Vibing with the Dogs, who wants to make sure that you know that it's Ryan Poles, not Ryan Pools.
Y'all are always calling me out with the names. It's Mitch Trubisky, man. It's
not
Mitch
really, but
it's
there's no second T, but we'll let you have it.
It's Mitch Trubisky, man. I go home when I go back to good old Jessup, Pennsylvania every once in a while. Everybody who listens to me back there is like, I hear what you're saying. I'm like, I know you do. I get it. I know that you do. Thank you for that. Is Ryan Poles. I know. Thank you.
Let's go to Ricky, who says, do you think the playoff noise will be a big problem for our young offensive line? Penalties could rack up on the Steelers.
I mean, it could be. Definitely could be. I'm not going to say it's not. That's a wait and see situation. You got to hope that they don't. You got to hope that they're built for the moment. Are they? I don't know. We'll find out. It could definitely be. M&T Bank Stadium is loud, very loud, and it's going to be even crazier with the playoffs there.
The one question that I have, and I'll have to ask a Ravens fan, were they spelling out Ravens before the Jets spelled out Jets? Because the Ravens, after they scored, say RAVENS. I was like, Eagles do that, Jets do that. Who is the first and who's copying? It feels to me that the Ravens are just blindly copying other.
Yeah, they're definitely last. The Ravens were definitely last. There's no chance. I would imagine Eagles are probably. Yeah, Eagles were first. Jets or Ravens are last. We all know that.
Copycat fan base. What are you going to do? Let's go over to Spurkaside, who says, Nick and Noah, your gut says Steelers upset. Mine says Darnell surprise performance with a touchdown. Do you agree?
My gut did not tell me the same thing, but like I said when we were making picks, you got to trust your gut. You got to trust your instincts sometimes, and if that's what it's saying, man, it'd be a wild one to go first and then the playoffs. That'd be That would be a gap of gaps and a way to come back for sure. My thing is, where is Darnell Washington gone? Where has he gone? Why have they taken him off the field every chance that they get? I just don't get it. I hope your gut's right, man. I hope your gut's right.
We got one more question, one comment that I wanted to close out the show with. Let's start with the question from Marlon Lewis. Wants to know, is Mason McCormick going to play with the big cast on his right hand?
I don't expect it's his right hand. I don't expect Mason McCormick to play. I did talk to him on Thursday, and he said that he's feeling better, but it's just almost a sense as if he's not going to play. Rookie, bad timing. You got Spencer Anderson. So if I had to guess, he won't be out there. I don't know for certain yet, but that's my prediction. It'll be Spencer Anderson.
All right. Well, let's close it out with this one from No Coast Golf. The feeling is that Baltimore is expected to win and Pittsburgh has nothing to lose. Be careful of teams that have nothing to lose, especially with history on your side.
I'll say this. The Cleveland Browns hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers and beat them because it was their Super Bowl. And you got to hope that the Steelers Super Bowl is much bigger than this. But it sure feels like this is the pressure of this is your Super Bowl. This is it. This is, we can do something that nobody believes we can do. We can pull some craziness out of thin air and make this thing happen. So I agree with you. The most dangerous teams in the league at all times are teams with nothing to lose. And there is no team in the playoffs, none, with less to lose, but more to lose at the same time, because the Steelers have a ton to lose in this game. They might lose their quarterback. Their head coach is going to be criticized all offseason. You will have massive changes coming. The what to lose is huge, but nobody's giving them a shot. Everybody's overlooking them. And the most dangerous teams are the teams that have been ruled out early. And I agree with you. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. I will be back with the walkover tomorrow, and then we will be back on Monday, hopefully with a victory Sunday leading into a victory week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. With that said, enjoy a beautiful day in the Burgh. Safe travels if you're going to Baltimore, and stay warm at M&T Bank Stadium. We'll see you Monday. Peace.